Hello, future educators. Welcome to the second session on counseling of children for coping with stress. If you remember, we had in the first session we had discussed about teachers as counselors, what is counseling, the role of counselor, and what are the essential qualities of a counselor. And we discussed cases how to help students or children whose parents are undergoing divorce or separation of parents. Now, in this particular session, we will be discussing about loss of parents in armed conflict, and in the second part we'll be discussing about survivors of child abuse. So how we as educators or teachers can help students who are having or facing very difficult phases of their lives, that is loss of parents in armed conflict. Now, how can or what can be the causes of losing parents? Now, losing of parents for any child is a very grievous loss. I mean, it's the greatest loss which any child can ever think of or can have. Now, how can anybody or how can we lose parents in an armed conflict? If the parent is a part of any armed forces, say army, navy or air force or paramilitary forces or police force or any other governmental agencies responsible for country's security, or parents are a party to any terrorist activity, parents are part of a terrorist outfit, or parents are loss of parents in a terrorist activity, say for example unfortunately in a bomb blast or something like that, loss of parents in a dispute with relatives or other members of community, say for example some communal clashes or something like that, loss of parents in an attack, say for example burglary or say dacoity happens at home or somewhere else or on the road or somewhere, loss of parents in an accident. So these are some of the reasons or some of the causes of losing parents in an armed conflict. Now, what effect does it have on children? As we can very well imagine, loss of parents is a huge loss for any child, whatever be the age, and there will be multitude of feelings like grief, sadness, sense of loss, anger, frustration, loneliness, insecurity, fearfulness, helplessness, shock, tantrums, irritability, and the list can go on and on. It's a very difficult phase for in any child's life, and children may tend to feel again and again, why me, why not others, why it has to happen only to me. So they may cling, especially smaller children, they may cling to a favorite toy or object and try to negate कि this did not happen, something like that, कि kind of negation is there, कि or they are not willing to accept that this is something which has happened. Withdrawal or restlessness, not talking to anybody, or say totally they are persistently restless all the time, or there are certain physiological manifestations. It may affect their body also in a number of ways. It disturbs sleep, stomach upset, headaches, and number of other manifestations can be there. So physiological, on a physiological level also, and on a psychological level also, it has a very deep impact on children. So in what manner the school or educators or counselors can help the children in such cases? Focus on resilience has to be there. Resilience is bouncing back. How do you come back to life? Okay, something which has happened, and it's not an easy process and it requires time. So that amount of time needs to be given to those children and not stressing the child. So it's basically helping or being empathetic and letting the child be, and giving all the positive, you can say whatever positive forces which can be there in the environment, trying to have those things, reminders of love, especially in case of younger children, physical. Now, according to number of regulations and all, it may be difficult in contemporary times because teachers these days are not supposed to touch their children. That is okay, but yes, school and counselors can at least communicate this thing to the family members and others, that children, especially smaller children, younger children, they need reminders of love, that yes, they are being loved, and even by teachers also. So this can go a very long way in helping them overcome their feelings of grief. Encourage them to talk. Many children may not be able to talk or voice their feelings, but yes, those feelings, they come out maybe by way of activities, games, role plays, etc., etc. Now, these are also part of, say, the counseling procedures also. So, but these are to be done by a trained counselor, that when they have number of therapies like art therapy or the role play therapy and drama. So, but these are to be done on a professional level. But yes, in a normal general classroom, these activities, which generally take the minds off of the children of the situation they are in, and they it's basically about giving them avenues to engage their mind somewhere else. So it gives them a positive getaway from the situation in which they are in. Empathy on the part of other students. So there's again a difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is our attitude of saying hi bechara or hi bechari. So we do not have to enforce these feelings of bechara or bechari. They are not bechara. So our focus has to be we have to empower them. Empathy is basically putting yourself in the shoes of the other person, just trying to feel the kind of grief or sadness which the other student is feeling, but at the same time not letting that feeling of, say, bechara or bechari creeping in. Stories and incidents which instill positive thoughts. So we can, as educators, we can share stories, incidents in our local surroundings, in different books or wherever in the world. Involvement in activities which promote creative thoughts and feelings. Individual activities won't help, so more focus has to be there on creating collaborative and cooperative learning environments, so that children are involved in those activities, interacting, laughing. When they are laughing with their fellow friends, they tend to forget what's going on in their life. And if we can involve the children in those activities, it can take a lot of grief out of them. Societal activities are to be encouraged. Focus has to be on life skills, and school is not just only about academic qualification or academic activities. Overall development of the child, thinking skills, social skills and emotional skills by way of different activities need to be done, and these life skills have to be an integral part of the curriculum. You cannot, or the school shouldn't be having separate life skills class. Now we are having a life skill period. Life skills period mein, now what the students generally think is that they think in isolation. Say this is maths, the concepts which they have studied in maths, they are only for maths. The concepts which they have studied in, say, life sciences or social sciences, वो सिर्फ social sciences के लिए हैं, and the concepts, so they do not think of the interrelationship. So if we have life skills session as a separate period in the normal timetable, okay, this is life skills. So they will never think of incorporating or incorporating those life skills which they have learned as in generic terms. So life skills has to be an integral part of the curriculum and it should find a space wherever possible in all the academic subjects and academic as well as co-curricular activities and subjects. Making children proud of their parents' contribution or achievements. So if, say, a parent has been a part of, say, a military exercise or something like that, let the children be proud of it. Children are, but yes, acknowledging that really helps. Now, what are the effect on adolescents? Adolescents, since they are quite mature or their cognitive level is quite high, at times it may be difficult for them to accept that. And they may feel very discouraged because this is a very negative event, so they may be totally disheartened. They may have mood swings, irritability with no reason at all, or anxiety, extreme forms of anxiety, emotional distances from other people, isolation. So they may become quite aggressive, or they may totally withdraw themselves also. Thoughts about the future, concern about well-beings of themselves and others. So they may feel very uncertain about what the future holds for them. Loss of interest in usual hobbies, activities or friends. Now, steps to be taken especially for adolescents is encouraging positivity about future, giving them hope. This hope should be about and rationalization, because this is a stage where students can rationalize a lot. And then when you're talking of coping mechanisms, say if anything happens, there are different ways of coping up. So many people, especially children, may go into the denial mode. So denial mode which is not considered to be very constructive mode. So rationalization and then yes, utilizing the energies in a positive direction. So that positive direction has to be provided. that positivity about the future has to be provided, and hope for the future has to be provided. Okay, this is something which has happened, okay, and future is uncertain, and so things do happen. So taking it as a part of life, and life is composed of highs and lows, so all of these kinds of rationalizations, they have to be given to the adolescent so that it can help them in moving on. Focus on collaborative and cooperative tasks. Again, this is very important, because again, this is a stage where they are totally in the influence of their peer group. So if they get themselves involved in collaborative activities with the peer group, it's a very positive step for them, because when they are with the friends, they forget what has happened in their personal life. So again, taking off their minds from things which are happening in their lives, and it will give them a positive energy. Encourage them to voice their feelings and concerns. Encourage reflective and introspective exercises. So acceptance, yes, this has happened. Let them grieve. If you give them time to grieve, and then it will be in a better position to come out. Then again, steps to be taken is avenues for interaction with people who can share their experiences on various issues pertaining to conflicts, their resolution, role of society and individuals. So intellectualization is another kind of coping up mechanism. So let them intellectualize whatever has happened in their life, and then various issues pertaining to it, and then having discussions. So again, it's going to help them in taking out, coming in, bouncing back. Taking note of positive things in life, very important. So okay, something very bad has happened, something negative has happened. Now let us try to focus on the positive things. So this can give a new lease of life to their thinking process. So thinking about the positive things is very important. Building life skills and resilience. Again, focus on life skills has to be there, and life skills again to be an integral part of the curriculum and co-curricular activities, and the students have to be involved in lots of, you can say, lots of co-curricular, collaborative and cooperative tasks. Resilience is bouncing back. Now we'll move to the other aspect. So this was all about how to help students or children who have suffered major loss in terms of their parents in any armed conflict. Now we'll try to talk about another very important, children who have undergone any kind of a child abuse. Now, child abuse or maltreatment constitutes of all physical and or emotional, sexual, neglect or commercial or other exploitation resulting in actual or potential harm to the child's health, survival, development or dignity in the context of a relationship of power, trust or responsibility. Now this is a definition given to us by WHO, which says that child abuse is basically when the children are being exploited either physically or emotionally or mentally or sexually, or they are being neglected. That means their basic needs are being neglected. So these are the different forms of child abuse. Physical abuse, that physical harm like kicking, punching, beating, hitting or other forms of physical torture. Emotional abuse, which is also known as the verbal, mental or psychological maltreatment. It includes creating a negative environment or giving negative kind of stimuli to the child in the form of insulting the child, rebuking the child, threatening, कि ये नहीं किया तो ऐसा हो जाएगा, discriminating between, say, even between the two sexes, say discrimination between a girl child and a boy child, right? And ridiculing, belittling that you cannot do anything at all, or making fun of the child. If these things are done at regular interval, it creates a havoc with the self-concept of a child. Sexual abuse is engaging in inappropriate sexual behavior with a child which he or she cannot understand or is mentally or emotionally prepared for or give informed consent. It includes using a child for sexual practices, prostitution, pornography, etc., etc. So yes, lot of children, and according to an estimate, almost 50% of the children have experienced some kind of abuse or the other. Neglect is again, it's a deficit in meeting a child's basic need. That means not caring for a child's, say, nutritional needs or food needs or health or say need for love. It includes failure to provide adequate health care, supervision, clothing, nutrition, housing, medical needs, educational or emotional or psychological needs. So not providing enough love, care and attention what the child needs. Now, when you're talking of all of these different kinds of child abuses, there are two different aspects to it. One is how do we identify children who have undergone or who are undergoing any kind of abuse, and the second is the remedial action, what remedial action needs to be taken. So how do we identify children who have been abused? So we need to look for any unusual behavior at home or at school. Say any unusual behavior, say theft of money. That means somebody may be harassing the child for money or rushing towards the toilet as soon as the child is home. So maybe child is wanting to cry or something like that. So why is the child doing that? Not wanting to go by bus or insisting that the parents be with him or her. At times the parents may think that okay, the child is, it's a usual general tantrum, child doesn't want to go to school or child doesn't want to go by bus, or the child all the time wants to be with the parent. But at times if there is a change, say if it's a consistent, but if there is a change after a point of time, the child is again insisting that the parents be with the child, that means there may be something to explore. Not wanting to go to the home. Now this is very important. Many a times, especially small children, they are not able to communicate if something is going on. Many times they don't even understand that if somebody has done something wrong to them. But yes, they do get a little worried or they are not able to express, but they may say ki, I don't want to go home. If the child says this thing to the school that I don't want to go home, so there has to be a reason for that. I don't want to go to school at all. So a child who was maybe not so happily but was going to school and all of a sudden wants to say that I don't want to go to school, there has to be something to it. Or I don't want to go to the playground. Now children or a child who was wanting to go to the playground and play with the friends and all. Now it's very unusual for the child, for any child to insist that I don't want to go to the playground or a park or a particular friend's place or a particular relative's place. So these are some of the instances which need to be explored. Ki there has to be something in the environment which is bothering the child. Staying aloof suddenly, if the child doesn't want to play or talk with anybody, drop in the grades, disinterest in studies, sulking unnecessarily, or nervous at the sight of boys, males, or even uncles or aunts. These days, again, this is a misnomer that it's only the girl students or girl children who are being exploited. Same can be said about the boys also. So, and it's not that boys are being exploited only by boys or older adults or males. Boys can be exploited by females also. So getting over this thing that only girls are being exploited and the people who exploit sexually are only males, it's again something which this is a psyche which we need to get ourselves rid of. So if a child is nervous at the sight of a particular person, that means something. If there are new friends suddenly, especially in the adolescent age, the previous friends have gone and new friends and who are kind of shady characters, is a definite sign towards that there is something not very nice happening. Identification of victims, like there are certain specific, these are physical characters, say unexplained bruises. If a child has, bruises which he or she does not want to explain, fractures, bite marks, inappropriate clothing to cover up. So if the child is wanting to cover up things and wearing clothes which are not appropriate, say if the child is in extreme of winters, children are coming without sweater, that means there is nobody at home to take care of those things. So that means the child is not being taken care of properly. Or in the heat of summers, the child is wearing very long full sleeves clothing and always trying to not trying to expose his or her arms. That means there is again something wrong somewhere. So these things need to be taken care of. Behavioral extremes, say aggression or withdrawal, both needs to be taken care of. Difficulty in sitting or walking, why the child is not very comfortable sitting or walking, that means maybe something is wrong. Torn or strained clothes, these are some other characteristics. Threatened by physical contact or closeness by anybody, say if a child has been abused, say physically or sexually, and if say a person of similar say age or appearance comes and stands, the child will be threatened. So if a child is threatened without any particular reasons, in the absence, closeness of any particular person, that requires to be investigated. Frequent absenteeism is a cause of concern. Steals or begs for food, that means the child is not getting appropriate food at home, the child has to beg for it or is stealing for it. So calls for attention. Unattended medical records, overtly concerned for siblings. So an older sibling may be overtly concerned for the younger sibling, thinking that the kind of situation which he or she is in, sibling may also fall prey to the same this thing. So those things need to be taken care of. Poor self-esteem, self-devaluation and lack of involvement. Many a times children tend to think that whatever is happening to them is because of their own fault. So this is something which we as teachers, educators have to take into consideration, that it is not the child's fault, and we have to help the child come out of this feeling that it's not their fault. Hysteria, lack of emotional control. बच्चा रो रहा है तो रोता ही जा रहा है, या without any reason is crying and crying a lot. These are certain reasons to worry. So what actions need to be taken? First of all is not to brand or label the child. Okay, that child who was raped, or these kinds of, if even within the staff members also, if teachers tend to call by such names, it leads to branding or labeling, and somehow it is considered to be very wrong, very wrong on anybody's part to be labeling the child. Say if somebody is a special child, oh, that case who is ID is intellectual deficiency. So that kind of labeling or branding is not to be done. Focus on maximizing the potential of the child. So as it is, education is basically about maximizing everybody's potential. So we have to focus special attention on these children who have a lot of potential, but they have to be helped in order to come to their maximum potential. Sensitization of other children is required. Children, especially small children, because their social skills are still not developed, feelings of empathy have still not developed. One very thing is that we are not born as empathetic beings. Empathy has to be inculcated, it has to be developed. And this development is again, it's a physiological process, it's a natural process also, but yes, schools and teachers and parents do have a role in inculcating the empathy among students. So role plays and stories and other activities can inculcate these empathetic feelings among students. So sensitization of the other children have to be done. It's not their fault, anybody can face some such situation. Again, a committee which includes counselors, senior teachers, parents, manager with powers. Manager with powers means somebody who can take some definite action, and students need to be there so that if there is anything happening, because students know in which part of the school what is happening. At times, many times, teachers may not get to know, or the managers or others may not get to know that in some toilets, say somebody is there. So something is happening. So students should be there, and there should be continuous mechanism getting feedback from the students that if anything wrong is happening, and very important that students need to know that help is there. Students need to know कि किसके पास जाना है, किसके पास complaint करना है. Students many times, first of all, they, especially younger children, they first of all don't understand what's going on, and then they don't understand what to do. So that mechanism has to be very clear. Action to be taken. Admission forms to include all details for identifying any deficiencies or problems. Sensitization of teachers, parents and students has to be a continuous process. If we have sensitized people once, it's okay. No. This sensitization has to be a continuous process, more specifically in case of students. Counseling program in the school, there has to be a proper counseling program under the guidance of a proper qualified counselor, so that all of these issues can be taken care of well in advance or in a proper manner. Then orientation program for the parents as at regular intervals has to be there. Orientation program when the students are admitted to the schools, and then at regular parent-teacher interactions is emphasized. Now in case of a physical or a sexual assault, if it happens in the school maybe, so what to do? So one thing is being with the child. The child should know that okay, everybody is supporting that child. Not, first of all, many a times the child tends to think that it is his or her fault. So assuring the child that it is not his or her fault, and being with the child, supporting the child, and the child should know that everybody is there with him or her. Listen to the angered parents patiently. So the schools go into the denial mode, ki no. If something has happened, take the ownership and listen to the angered parents so that they come out with whatever they have to say, and they come out with the feeling that at least they have been heard. It is basically a form of catharsis. Consulting a trusted doctor or a counselor, which is very important. asking the parent what to do or what do they want, assuring them it won't happen again in future. So whatever recourse, whether it's a legal this thing or whatever, let the parents decide, and don't tell them not to go to the police. In fact, the school should be taking the onus to take the assaulters to the police. So this is something which the schools should be doing. Now this was about the remedial measures. Now let us talk about the proactive measures which need to be taken. So again, the focus has to be on life skills education, and it has to be an integral inbuilt part of the curriculum, and focus on resilience has to be there. That means bouncing back. How do you make your students come out, bouncing back to life? That has to be the focus. Moral and ethical education, and making students aware that help is available. This is very important. Students should know that what kind of help is available. Never challenge a child into drastic steps. Self-fulfilling prophecies, negative motivation, catching one positive action. So any positive action done by the students should be encouraged. Separate child from the behavior. In case of any negative behavior, the child is okay, the child has done it, but child is different and the behavior is different. So these two have to be dealt with differently. Grades shouldn't be rewards or punishment. Say in case of anything has happened, physically hurt somebody else, so don't bully the child by saying that, okay, your rewards or you'll be punished or your marks are going to be affected. Nothing like that should be there. So in the end, I would like to conclude by saying that by a very famous song by Michael Jackson, I hope all of you must have heard it. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire universe. And we as educators and as counselors, we are there for the children. So it's a huge onus and responsibility on our shoulders, and I wish you all the best for your future profession. Thank you.